Hey guys, this is Eric Weingart with Weingart Racing. Even though you're watching on Saturday, I'm filming this on Friday because I'm going to be at my son's swim tournament for the next 2 days. Kind of slows things down in the shop. I wish I could say I made a lot of progress with this S10, but I really haven't, but that's what this video is pretty much about, so you can see the mistakes. I do want to say this. The big block Chevy Dyno Mule books are available. I have shipped out a bunch yesterday. I didn't get a chance to ship any more today just because I ran out of time. But they're all, shipping labels are all created and stuff. I just make time to make it to FedEx, so they'll go out on Monday. Go to my website, wengines.com. You'll see a link for my website or my online store so you can buy the books. So please purchase those. I've got plenty in stock now. Anyway, to this. I am far more open about sharing my experiences with my S10 just because I make so many more mistakes on this. And if I could save one person from being an idiot like myself, that's great. The cylinder head stuff, I feel like I'm definitely more professional. I feel like I'm an idiot with this one. But anyway, and you'll probably agree when you watch it. So, and also, the statistics on the channel has been kind of weird. It was really good whenever I did the dyno stuff, but then during this last month, it kind of dropped really off. And I think it's probably because I'm not racing. And I know some of you are like, I'd like to see you run the S10. I want to see what it does in the Camaro. And they should have been out at the start of the season, and they just didn't. Partly because I got so busy in the shop and just didn't get time to work on it. But let me show you what's been done. Now, this is the Sniper EFI. We dynoed it with that. On the dyno, I used a 2-inch carb spacer, and I had the Torque Storm, because I'm running a supercharger, this Torque Storm deal, on there, and I had it set up with their hat, not this hat. And several of you had said, and I knew this too, their hat sucks. And Torque Storm even called me and said, you're way maxing out that hat. You really should do a different hat. This one's actually from Holley. The reason why I picked it is because I tried using that Extreme Flow. One, good luck finding an elbow. And two, it didn't fit anyway. So, and I actually had bought spacers to go underneath this to raise it up. This is where we're at. This is where it sits. So I had my son help me trial fit the hood several times. I run a 4-inch cowl. This is the most you're gonna get. Now, I don't know that you'll have the same problem. I'm running a raised runner head, so it's got a taller intake. The flange itself sits up higher. So anyway, point being is I don't know if you're gonna have to deal with that, but it actually, of course, contacted the hood up here. Now it's clear, so we're good to go there. What I've done now is start running the fuel system. And you think cylinder heads are expensive? Fuel lines, fuel fittings, good God. I'm right now sitting at $1,500 on this fuel setup. Just the hoses and fittings. I'm not even joking. And you're like, well, you overspent. Well, yes, I only wanted Red Horse Performance hose and their fittings. And if they didn't have them, I went for Golia. And the other thing is I'm trying to do 2 fuel systems because even though this is the Holley Sniper, I'm going to be switching back and forth to the blow-through carb. I have a blow-through carb gas and the blow-through methanol, which I was also dynoed with. So it makes 2 fuel systems to go inside this entire truck, which makes it a huge pain in the rear and costs way more. It's insane. These things just add up so quick. But anyway, let me show you what I've got here. And I haven't got it all plumbed in, obviously. This is the carbureted fuel regulator. This is a Magna Fuel, and so is that. It's a Magna Fuel too. But the way it works is this is a sensor that goes to the Holley ECU. And let me show you, because you're like, well, in carb, you wouldn't be using it. Yes, I do. I'm recording fuel pressure because if you remember, that's the one that was off my old Holley Sniper EFI. So when it's on the carburetor, I just plug in, this one's already on its own. It's got everything on another O2 sensor on that bank, but all of it's on there, and I just plug in the ignition one so it can control timing, and I'll have it set up the same as that one. So that's why also this stuff costs more. So when it's on the carburetor, the sensor can read, and then I've got one when it's on fuel injection, so that one can read. So 2 systems, the carbureted one, and this is the EFI one. The EFI one, you'll have that's expensive. That fuel filter there, good God. Anyway, it comes up through, and then you got to feed into this. And I changed these to 8s. They come with 6s just because I've got an E85 tune I could run. Right now, I'm going to keep it on pump gas. The return to the regulator, and that goes back to the back. And this is where money just piles up to ridiculous amounts. So there's that. Very slow progress here. You could tell how close the fans are. I don't even have the belt in. But yeah, it's close. Very close. Still trying to figure out this whole alternator bracket. Keep getting the wrong belt. You know, I watch Old Man's Garage, and I love it. He's got a terrific parts guy. There's an AutoZone, 2 of them in Broken Arrow. And the one I usually go to was on Elm Street. And I mentioned this just because I used to be in the magazine for Popular Hot Rodding whenever the Engine Masters was going on. So they used to sell them there, and he knew who I was, and that guy was amazing. Well, I went to the new one they just opened today to get this belt. Mother. Old man's garage, he's got that guy Mark at A1 or whatever. Oh, he is so blessed, because there's nothing worse than I showed up with a radiator hose that it was in here before, and the lower one, and the belt. And I brought them. I said, I just need 1 inch longer hose on the top, 1 inch shorter on the bottom, and I need this belt 2 inches shorter. What's the vehicle for? I said, don't look it up that way. The S10 never came with a V8. Well, the Cyclone did, but it didn't matter. It's not that gonna work. Oh my God. Oh my God. Thankfully, he let me go back there in the back with the measuring tape and start working. They don't have it. And I got a belt that was the wrong length. So whatever. But anyway, here's money. And you can laugh, this is how it's gonna be. There are 2 fuel cells. This actually came from Ron Rhodes. And this is for the EFI setup. Now it's got 2 pumps in here, so I can run E85, and I got plenty of for it. But you're like, what's all going up here? Let me explain. The 2 pumps, and these are just for mock-up. The 2 pumps are gonna have a check valve, and they're gonna go into this Y that feeds into the pump up to the front. And that's how that one's gonna work. There'll be a return line, obviously, that goes back to the return. I still need that 60-degree fitting because I put padding in here to kind of protect, this fuel cell. I don't know if other people are supposed to do that. But anyway, because it sticks up, I'm gonna have to do a 90 here so it kind of goes over that. Anyway, so that one feeds the fuel injection setup. You're like, great. Why does that cost so much? I don't get it. Well, that Y isn't too bad, but that's the only thing. On the back side here, this is where it's gonna get complicated. These are 2 outlets too. So this one's gonna have a drain and a valve. This one's coming out, and they're teamed together, and this Y, which will then go on to this Y, which then will go into the carbureted pump so that it can feed if I choose to run pump gas or whatever. You might say, why would you do that? Because yes, that fuel cell can run everything, but it's only 5 gallons. So if I'm going on a long road trip, the sniper decides, screw you, I'm done with you. I could throw on the carburetor, and all I have to do is close one valve from that tank, open this one. Obviously don't turn on that pumps. They'll already be feeding here. And then, because you're like, what about the return, right? Because I thought about that too. This is the return style for the Magna Fuel. It's got 2. This one's the one that'll feed in from this tank, so it can feed in there. This will have another check valve, or ball valve, I should say, that will feed back into that tank. So when I switch this over to run fuel out of this, I could still run it to the carbureted one and return back to this. You're starting to see why everything's costing so much. It's because it's backups. So if the sniper fails, I don't want to be stranded. I want to be able to pull out the carburetor, pop it on, flip things over, because the electronics, like I already showed you, is set up, but I've got the fuel there. So, because the idea for this is I eventually would like to do a drag and drive event with this. So, and then that'd be easy. Methanol, gas, or E85 methanol, or whatever, and I'd be able to do it. And that's the whole purpose of it. But man, the fittings get expensive, and I don't care how many you order, you're getting the wrong one. The one you don't want will come in, and the one you end up needing will not come in. And not because they messed up the order, it's because you didn't think about something you needed to order. So like, obviously, I didn't even think about a 60-degree fitting. I need that now. And they just pile up. Here are the check valves, by the way. And what this does is, I don't plan to run both pumps on this all the time. Just probably the one pump when I'm driving around. But when I'm racing, I'll kick both on. The check valves to prevent it from feeding back in through the other pump. So that's the idea for it. I'm just trying to save it, you know what I mean? That's what's going on here. You want to see a huge screw up I did? Oh, you've stuck around this long? Yeah, this is me being a moron. I want to explain first. I see my dad's name in the truck. That's sweet, isn't it? I only get like maybe 10 minutes a day to work on this. So it's like accomplish one thing per day would be great. The problem is I forget what I was working on because I get busy. I wish I could just drop what I'm doing or have someone else do this for me or part of it. I just ain't got time. So I'm too busy grinding. So this is what happens. So before I zoom in here and show you this, I want you to understand. Let me just go over here. When we added the mid plate, I really didn't, it's just right there. I didn't think much about it. No big deal. Yeah, it moves the transmission back, and I'd totally forgotten how much a pain in the ass it is to get the transmission bolts out on this side. Now, on the other side, you can reach to, no problem. So when the engine was out, I was like, oh, I'll cut a hole. Well, guess who forgot to cut a hole? Me. So I'm trying to put the bolts in. I only got like a few minutes. I gave up after 3 days. So I thought, you know what? Holt's all the bitch. I didn't go all the way through the transmission, but I left a hell of a notch in my BTE transmission. That's me being a moron. Also, it looks like a dick shot now, cut out of the floorboard. But anyway, yeah, it was horrible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not pulling it, and it's probably fine. I'm sure other people don't have any problem with it. It's not, by the way, it's not even all through. I measured it. That's 90,000 steep. It's 256 thousandths thick. So it's still like 100 thousandths. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have my guy come in and weld this up, just for make me feel better about myself. And then if I ever pull it again, I'm changing the bell. God, I hate when I messed up on my own. And you're like, oh, what's that? That's not a hole either. That's just where the scratch with a drill bit froze from that. Yeah, so yeah. If you want to be a moron, I could show you how to do it. Yeah, that was not the smartest thing I've ever done in my life. So, yeah, man. Anyway, it's been my week, pretty much, of hardly getting to touch this. I just found the earmuffs I was missing. But there you go. That's the reason why we haven't made any progress. My nil chance converter came in for the Camaro, right there, and it's not even close to being done, because that's the other thing. I ordered these gaskets because the gaskets I use for headers aren't even in. They won't be in until like September, which makes no sense. Header gaskets, really? The only thing I do is put it in. I was waiting to get the truck done so I could get it out to get the Camaro in. But anyway, now you've stuck around, you could see this. Oh, by the way, I know you're like, what about the other sensors? That's an extra water temp sensor. So one that feeds that Sniperia 5, and the one on the other side feeds the other one. Then there'd be a manual one back in there, so I get that reading. Also, I have the pressure sensor right there. That's for the oil pressure. And then there's a manual line that comes off of it too. Anyway, if you got any questions or anything, feel free to put them in the comments. And yeah, you can call me an idiot on this one, because this has been a disaster. A smart person would devote some time to just working on it only. But a business person has to make money to pay for these fittings that you got that was wrong. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Someday this will finally get driving again. I was hoping to have it ready for Father's Day for a cruising event, but yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, thanks. Tomorrow's video, I am gonna do one. It's gonna be about that big block Chevy dyno mule. I'm gonna talk about these couple of sets of cylinder heads and how they compared. You guys, take care.